Welcome to A.U.M. We are live, and I'm your host, Callie Fedosinko of Callie Collective, a digital marketing agency designed to build relationships between financial advisors and their target audience through data-driven custom content and advertising. How long have you been an advisor? If it's for 10 years or more, how many marketing trends have you seen arise? And how many stuck around? And how many did you try? For me personally, I've been in the financial planning industry for 12 years. And what I've seen is in-person education events with free steak dinners, letters in the mail, the introduction of firm websites, and then not long after, weekly blog articles, mass emails, then social media accounts, then social media stock content, now podcasting, and on the rise, video. If you've been around long enough to know that some trends stick and others don't. And of course, there's the trends that work for everybody except you. It can be difficult to know what you should focus on to get the highest ROI. So today, we're talking with Bob Verries of Inside Information. Bob has been a journalist and commentator in the financial planning industry for 40 years. He started his career at the age of 20 and fell in love with the financial industry as the editor for Financial Planning magazine. He left the magazine and started his own information service, which saves advisors and RIAs hours of research by reviewing professional publications and articles to offer relevant professional and industry insights. And you can bet that he's seen the rise and fall of several different marketing trends within the industry. So let's see what he's seen and what he expects. Make sure to ask your questions in the comments as we go. We'll see them on our end and answer them as they come in. Welcome, Bob.
Well, welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you. We've got your website that just popped up if anybody who's watching wants to subscribe to Inside Information.
Which is the wisest thing you can do, and I have no conflicts of interest whatsoever in recommending it wholeheartedly.
You're not involved at all. Bob, have you seen much change in the financial planning industry over the course of your career?
You know, Kelly, I think you're too young to hear this, so you might want to hold your ears while I tell you about some of the things that I've seen when I started out. I don't think you'd actually believe the number of differences between then and now. Back when I started, everybody was in sales and commissions were the revenue model. And people would walk up to each other at conferences and say, "What's your production number?" That was how they would size up each other to see if they were like relevant to talk to. And the products that were being recommended were limited partnerships and tax shelters, were opaque, illiquid, paid 10% commissions. If you wanted to create a product from hell, these were the primary products that were being recommended. We're, coming straight from the fourth circle of hell.
Yeah.
And the controlling portfolio building concept back then was the investment pyramid. And I joke, the stable base of the investment pyramid was the income producing limited partnership tax shelters. And the slightly dicier middle was, the private real estate deals and oil and gas exploration. And then at the top, the dicey stuff was syndicated collections of diamonds and fine art.
Wow.
And there was this new thing called software that was built on this new thing called spreadsheets, which were run by these new things called personal computers. And, then the evolution basically was we merged from tax shelters to actively managed mutual funds to index funds to ETFs to now tax-aware index replication. And the shift has been from commissions to A.U.M. And I think eventually we're going to move to fee-only, fee-for-service. But we'll see. We don't know.
It's definitely on the rise. I've talked to a lot more people who have fee-only practices. What's between then and now? What do you think the best change has been?
Well, of course, back then, marketing was pretty easy. You'd ask somebody, do you like to pay taxes?
Yeah.
And if you'd say no, you had a sale. And And then the other proven method was, we had these computers, right? And so you'd run a
Hmm.
financial planning program, and somebody gleefully demonstrated their financial planning software, and they would input all sorts of things. It didn't matter what they input, and the output would be you need to buy a whole bunch of life insurance, regardless. And because it came from a computer, it seemed like it was, objective.
Right.
Um, but I've seen there were canned seminars that you could buy that had all the
Hmm.
slides with it and the scripts. And then there was something, I actually introduced something called drip marketing. I
Mm.
wrote the first article about drip marketing. Somebody had
Hmm.
kind of pioneered that idea, and that was working really well.
Yeah.
And then there were those cheesy bits of advice where advisors were told to say to clients, I get paid two ways.
Mhm.
And one way is you actually pay me for the services I provide. The other is you feed me referrals so that I
Mm.
can do the same thing for your. And I have to say that all of that worked,
Mhm.
but it all, I think, somewhat cheapened the reputation of the profession in the process.
Mm.
And I remember watching that and didn't really feel comfortable with any of those, even
Yeah.
though they did. And cold calling, of course, which we won't get into.
Right.
You're much too young to hear those stories.
Smile and dial. I mean, you know so many, and you've interviewed several advisors. Would you say that any of them are still using those prospecting methods that you just described? I mean, I know referrals is still a huge one that most advisors are using.
Yeah, referrals it's a different game now. By the way, you
Mm.
said I interview a few advisors. I've been interviewing
Mhm.
several dozen a month for 42 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
I've gotten a
just a few.
lot of perspective from people. And some of the people I knew in the early years, they're no longer alive. So I
Yeah.
can say with certainty they're not using their original prospecting methods at this point in
Right.
time. But I have to say the default marketing has always been to do nothing.
Mm.
The joke used to be, and it wasn't a joke, it was actually an interview.
Mhm.
I asked somebody, how do you market? And he said, I wait for the phone to ring.
Mm.
And that natural follow up question was, what happens if the phone doesn't ring? And he said, I wait harder. And I think that's kind of the center of gravity today, actually. I think most
Right,
advisors,
yeah.
they don't really want to market because they think that that's too self serving.
Mm.
But the people who are passive marketers are just focusing on providing better client service and hoping that'll
Mhm.
generate more referrals. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's the advanced passive marketing right now.
With those individuals, are many of them successful? I mean, is it working for them not doing any sort of marketing?
The it's a fair question.
Yeah.
And when you say working, I think the profession is in more fending off new prospects and clients than they are looking for them, searching for
Mm,
them.
mm.
The dynamic that I see, um, there's a stage in your career where you're hungry, where you want to
Yeah,
bring in clients, you need clients because otherwise you can't pay the bills, right?
right.
And so you use a marketing process, and whatever you use, you follow up on it, you give it time and attention. Any prospects that come in, you talk to them at
Mhm.
length because you're hoping that maybe you could find a fit somewhere. If you don't find a fit, you find a home for them. And then at some point you get a certain number of clients in the door and you're making money, and you
Right.
don't really want to talk to people who might not be prospects anymore. And so the whole marketing effort really goes down the drain because you're suspicious of anybody who knocks on your door. They might not be
Mhm.
a fit, they might take
Mhm.
up too much of my time, and that's where I think the profession is today. If you look at the profession overall, a global perspective, everybody,
Yeah,
we're not growing.
yeah,
The
yeah.
profession is really not bringing in people, and
Mhm.
and that's a terrible problem, I think, because
Mm.
I tell people you have a fiduciary obligation to grow because otherwise they're going to find their way
Mm.
to a salesperson, to somebody
Right,
who's not working in your best interest.
right.
And So if you're asking the question of who's most successful, I think that's where you're trying to get to, right? Who is actually making? I
Yeah.
think. Go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Are the ones who are successful, are they implementing marketing? And if they are implementing marketing, are they doing things that are coming out new and fresh, or are they kind of standing back and waiting and watching? I mean, obviously, all advisors have the whole compliance issue. So, being early adopters, there is a little bit of a lag. But I have seen some new trends, and some advisors jump on and others don't. I was curious if that plays into their success.
Well, there. Can I give you a broader perspective on that?
Please.
Because
Yeah.
okay, feel free to tell me. Shut up, Bob, and answer my question directly. Um, I think what's going to happen shortly is that there's going to be more need for marketing. There's going to be more. How do you say it? More anxiety about marketing
Mm,
as and really the driver of this was when we went to Zoom meetings, when we went to remote
mm,
platform
mhm.
meetings, because before that, you could market, you could play golf with
Right.
people in your community, and that was your territory. It's
Right.
no longer your territory now because I, as an advisor, can work with somebody on either side of the Mississippi just as easily as I can work with somebody right down right area.
Mm,
So there's
mhm.
no tutorial in where every advisor is competing with every other advisor.
Mm. More
And
competition.
yes, and that means that somebody can eat my lunch from the other side of the Mississippi.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I've got to make sure that I protect my client base and
Mm,
grow. The other
mm, mhm.
dynamic is that, all of a sudden, I'm sure you've noticed this, is that
Yeah.
people who you're trying to hire, it's much harder to hire now. People are
Mm.
being choosy about which firm they're going to work with.
Mm,
And the
mhm.
choosiness often has to do with, is this firm growing or is this firm stagnating?
Hmm.
And
That's
so
interesting.
those two dynamics are going to start forcing people to start marketing.
Yeah.
So now
Right.
I can answer the question if you want. If you want to pose the question a different way, or if you want to, I could start talking about the real answer.
Yeah. Early adoption of new trends.
The real answer is that most founding advisors look like me, which is, they're
Yeah.
decrepit, their
Decrepit.
limbs are falling off, they fall asleep during client meetings, and they drool when they stare at the camera like I'm doing right now. And so they don't know what these new
Yeah.
marketing techniques are. They have no idea. The ones
Right.
that are being successful are the people who are hiring somebody who is a director of marketing, either
Mhm.
internally or externally, who can
Mhm.
say, there's this new thing called the internet that we might want to try working with,
Right.
and not only that, there's this thing called social media, and
Mhm.
you might have heard of it. I'm sure you're not doing it or anything, but it's something that we might. And the importance of social media, of course, is that it is a national phenomenon. You're
Yeah.
not marketing to your local community anymore, and so if we're all marketing to all territories at all times,
Mhm.
we have
Mhm.
to do something other than buy an ad in the local magazine. We have to get
Mhm.
the word out nationally.
Right.
Did that answer
Yeah.
your question? Probably didn't.
Um, what I heard is advise or firms that want to thrive going into this next generation need to incorporate marketing. Um,
Yeah, there's going to be a new urgency. I'm not sure we're there yet, but it's going to come shortly.
yeah. Maybe, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be an early adoption, but that they need to be aware, is what it sounds like to me.
Yes, there needs to be somebody who understands the ever changing dynamics of advisor marketing. I mean, you mentioned a bunch of things. I could add a few more things that were trends and fads, if you will. But the
Yeah.
problem is it's always shifting, and the best way to navigate it is always shifting. And
Mhm.
the advisory firms that I see are successful. Number
Mhm.
one, they have somebody who is guiding them through that, and number two, They
Yeah.
need to have the capacity to do what they did at the beginning of when they were starting their firm, which is pretty much be willing to talk to anybody or have somebody talk to anybody because anybody is the market.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. As far as them doing marketing, they need somebody. Would you say that they tend to do it on their own or they're hiring somebody? And what have you seen with the interviews that you've conducted between outsourcing and having somebody internal do it? Do you see any sort of difference?
Well, the somebody internal is hiring out some of the more specialized
Mm.
activities.
Mhm.
You've got testimonial marketing that's opening up right now.
Yes. Yeah.
You need a compliance person to be able to navigate that, or you need to have somebody who understands the compliance issues.
Right.
I'm not an attorney, so I probably am not the right person to be doing that as the founding advisor.
Mhm.
How do you collect those testimonials?
Mm.
You've got social media marketing.
Mhm.
I have a Facebook page. I checked it once. It's got a picture of me on it, and um, so how do you navigate that? And then you've got the internal person who
Mhm.
works with the outsourced people to navigate the ever
Right.
changing is going to coordinate everybody internally on how they market. So you've got a global firm-wide marketing.
Yeah.
Those are people who are successful, and there's only a handful of them right now. It's
Right.
not,
Yeah.
there's 300,000 advisors out there, and maybe
Mhm.
200 or 300 are doing a great job of marketing right now.
Mhm. I can confirm that.
Oh, okay, well, we agree on something.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for those remaining 290,000 advisors, or whatever the number is? I don't think I had that right. Any advice to them on how to pick a marketing partner?
Buy Super Bowl ads, I think, is the best advice.
And which Super
Good.
Bowl ad was your favorite?
I didn't watch, so I'm the only
Exactly.
person on the planet who didn't watch. I think so. Well, you and
Yeah.
I are the only two one, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw the very beginning 5 minutes, and that was about it. Just enough time for me to pick up my wings.
so if I'm giving advice to the advisor
Yeah.
profession on who to find, the first piece of advice is to look for somebody who works with financial planning firms.
Mm.
Uh, and you have to know the messaging challenges, which are considerable. You
Mhm.
have to know the lingo, if you will, and then you have to be able to translate the lingo into something that clients will relate to. Too many
Yeah.
marketing people, they come in and somebody says, we do dynamic portfolio asset allocation, and
Right.
we do Roth conversions, and so the marketing message comes out, dynamic portfolio asset allocation, which is meaningless to the average person.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you want somebody who knows how to handle the the profession, who knows the
Right.
profession, number one.
Right.
And that weeds it down from several million marketing organizations to maybe
Yeah.
maybe 30 or so.
Right.
And then I think where most advisors hit their ceiling of complexity is you want somebody knows how to interpret the data,
Mm.
the
Mhm.
testing the open rates and the click-through rates and one
Mm.
message. And I've
Mhm.
talked to marketing people, and they don't do that for people, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure how that can be not a part of the service, because marketing is iterative. This
Mhm.
didn't work. Why didn't it work? All right, let's try this. That's working
Right.
better. Let's try this. That's working better. If you don't have that iterative marketing capability, you're not really going to become effective.
Right. Agreed. One of the reasons that we focus on the data at our firm, so we do a quarterly analytics to look into those numbers for that exact reason. What's working? What's not working? What topics should we be focusing on? Um, from the 40 years ago to now, what have you found to be the biggest game changer in financial planning marketing?
Well, the remote meeting is the biggest game changer.
Mm, okay.
And that opens up all sorts of other things. That opens up the
Yeah.
fact that you need a national rather than a local brand.
Yeah.
But the second big game changer, of course, is the testimonials.
Mm. Mhm.
I don't think anybody the way you buy, you go to a restaurant
Mhm. Yeah.
and you want to make it a point, you want to eat out, and you
Right.
check out the restaurant reviews. You
Mhm.
go to a Airbnb, you check out, or the hotel, you check out the reviews. You look at and if somebody says, I was sleeping and I was covered in roaches, you don't go there.
Okay, don't go there.
Well, or maybe you don't, depending on your affinity with roaches. Um, but in the advisor marketplace, that wasn't possible. You couldn't check
Yeah.
out, is this a 4-star, a 3-star, a 1-star, or something. When I had knee surgery, I checked out how many stars the different providers,
Mm.
and I had a
Mhm.
great experience with somebody who was basically a 4 point something star surgeon.
Right.
So I think that's really important. That's a huge game changer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Do
and
you think, I mean,
I'm
on that
sorry.
note, do you think that, because I don't think this exists yet. Do you think there will be a platform that comes out that is specifically for reviewing advisors? Because one of the things I'm seeing right now is you can have testimonials on several different places, your website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google. There's not like a centralized place that somebody can go. I mean, maybe there is one that is in the works. I don't know. But do you think that'll be something coming down the pipeline, or maybe you already know of one?
I don't think it's necessary.
Mm.
I think you have to get the attention of people first,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then they check you out.
Yeah. I agree
And
with that.
and so they look at your reviews, they look at your website, and if your website, you look like a walking bank, which is
Mm.
something that I've always that's a phrase I coined, and I think way too many advisors fit that description.
Yeah.
What you want to do is look on your website like you're approachable. You want some information about who you are and what you do. Your social media, you want someone to be able to check you out and they see that you're a living, breathing human being, not
Hmm.
an institutional creature of some sort.
Right.
I tell people who look like me, I said, you need to loosen up a little bit, and open up.
Yeah.
And what are your hobbies?
Right.
What do you, and it's got to be something more than I play golf. It's got to be, I've
Hmm.
always, I had a passion for this or that, or,
And
I
pictures. And,
yes. And
yeah.
your staff people too.
Hmm.
So, I don't think we really need to have some centralized place where all that information can be accessed. I think
Hmm.
something called the internet, which, I'm sure it's going to catch on someday. And
Maybe.
people can go on the internet and they can check this out, that out, something else. A
Mhm.
thoughtful consumer will have no trouble finding all those things.
Right. Um, so what I'm seeing right now is one of the bigger trends is podcasting. And I think on the rise is video. What do you expect to be the next trend?
Well, those are obviously we're moving toward a society where everything is consumed by video and not by words, which is such a wonderful
Mm.
thing for us writers. We're so looking forward to that world. And I think what you convey in video is more than just the content. You convey who you are and what you're about and what you're like. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
those are really important. The podcasting is giving away and creating a sense of gratitude, and that's I think important.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
I used to one of the best marketing seminars I ever saw was
Mhm.
somebody said, "I'm going to teach you how I select investments for my clients,
Mm.
soup to
Mhm.
nuts, everything I do."
Yeah.
And you can go home and you can do this yourself, or you can have me do it either way, but this is the
Mhm.
process. And 90% of the people would go home and do it themselves. The other 10% would say, please don't make me do that. I want to work with you.
Yeah.
But they were being open, they were being
Mhm.
honest, they were giving it away, and there was a sense
Right.
of gratitude and also a sense of this is not easy.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be where the value proposition is changing.
Mm.
And I think there's going to
Mhm.
have to be some effective communication of the differences between you now and you
Mhm.
10 years after working with me.
Mm.
And I'm
Mhm.
not seeing that communication yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we're going to be shifting from managing assets sales was the old paradigm. Managing assets was the next paradigm.
Mhm.
Um, providing advice is the current paradigm. The new paradigm is going to be coaching you to successful outcomes, which
Mm.
may or may not involve the financial stuff. It may be, what are your goals? All right, I'm going to remind you of your goals and
Yeah.
make sure you're on track for them, and you're
Mm.
going to achieve them. And we're going to track your goals and track your achievement of them. That's going to change the service model, the economics, the marketing. That's going to change everything.
Do you think people still have to be licensed to provide that service?
God, I hope not. The more protocol you put in the way of the service being provided, the less likely it is to be customized to the client
Mm.
needs.
Mm. Interesting. Okay. Another question for you. What would you consider to be the biggest flop in advisor marketing?
Well, the easy answer is not marketing at all, right?
Okay.
And not marketing at all has been surprisingly effective
Yeah.
in years past, but the reason is because the first movers who were originally fee only, who were originally fiduciary,
Mhm.
were able to stand out in the crowd. That's not going to work going forward.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
think
Mhm.
it's a big flop in the making, if you will, because you're not.
Yeah.
I tell people who are fee only, but you're not alone anymore. You're
Right.
not the
Yeah.
only fee only advisor in your community.
Yeah.
So your website, if your website says comprehensive fee only financial planning, that's not going to be that you're part of the ocean, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Um,
I can't tell you how often I see comprehensive and holistic financial planning, which as an outsider, I mean, does anybody really know what that is if they're not in financial industry?
yeah, and you don't want to have somebody explain it to you. You want to know what
Right.
it is going in.
Yeah.
So the other, I think the second biggest flop is not having the capacity to implement whatever marketing program you do.
Mm. Mhm.
And the third biggest flop, and this may be the one that you're trying to get me to say, because I think you've seen it probably as much as I have,
Yeah.
is you try something and you do it for a month or two or maybe 3 months and it doesn't work,
Mm.
and you decide that's not for me. I can't make it
Mm.
work because it didn't work in the first 3 months. And you
Yeah.
try something else for 3 months, and you spend your entire career doing 3 month trials of things that would have worked if you'd kept at it for a year or two, but won't work
Right.
for 3 months. And that's really
Shiny object syndrome.
the inconsistent effort really doesn't
Yeah.
serve people well.
Um, I agree with that. Definitely. Um, there was something you were talking about with the websites.
The walking bank or the
No, it was fee only.
comprehensive. Yeah.
I don't know. I was wondering if the way websites are worded needs to be changed with this new introduction of coaching. Um,
Oh yeah,
because
well
right
for
now,
sure.
yeah,
The the way. All right, a longer story.
yeah,
I once created a contest.
yeah,
And the contest was everybody send me your marketing materials and a link to your website. And
mm,
whoever has the best marketing materials and the best website will win.
mhm,
And, I gave the first prize was an around the world trip, and the second prize was, $100,000 of cash. And I'm teasing. It was something like
I was
a
like,
super.
dang, I want to compete.
So anyway, I hired a marketing expert to judge
Mhm. Yeah.
and told everybody about the marketing expert. And so I got in, about 500 different, so, and she went through it. And after a month, I said, we need to pick a winner. Can we pick a winner now? And she said, no, we can't. And I said, wait, I promised that we would pick a winner. And so you need to pick a winner because we're going to have a
Right.
winner.
Yeah.
And she said, well, nobody wins because nobody talked about the client. They all talked about themselves.
Mm,
There has
interesting.
to be wording about client outcomes that's
Mm,
strong and effective, and also I think hits them where they happen to live, and that means you have to specialize. So, if you're
Yes.
working with doctors coming out of residency, it needs to say, you're facing these 7 choices: where to affiliate, how to set up your office, what kind of insurance you need. That's an outcome.
Mm.
In 3 months, you can be opening your doors and doing surgical procedures on people's eyeballs or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But it needs to talk about who they are, and what the outcome will be. And nobody does that right now. It's not
Mm.
being done effectively.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of fear there with compliance. Well, we can't promise anything.
You're not
If
promising
I can't
anything. You're
tell you an
saying,
outcome.
what you're doing is you're saying, here are the challenges, and these are the challenges we address. And these
Mm.
are the outcomes that we're trying to help you achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we promise you a 39% annual rate of return. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
promise you will make money.
There's another story behind that also, but you don't want to hear it because you're too young.
Why does that mean I don't want to hear it?
Do you remember I don't think you were around when optimizers were around.
Uh-uh.
But an optimizer basically it would create a portfolio of optimized investments based on return history.
Mhm.
And the optimizers would select things that had had a really good recent return history,
Yeah.
optimize a portfolio, and then the output would be the future re-
Mm.
return of
Mhm.
this portfolio would be 23.9% a year.
Mm.
And then this is the kicker, they started hooking them up with a Morningstar database, and it would pick the best mutual funds over the last 10 years and up that return expectation up to the 30% a year level. And I remember
Yeah.
once seeing that demonstrated and saying, wait, hold on, stop. Does anybody here expect this portfolio to generate 32.9% a year going forward?
Right.
And people who were just nodding their heads at the stop for
Mhm.
a second. So we always fall down these the point is, we always fall down these rabbit holes of
Mm.
something cool is coming on and we can adopt it and therefore we can do better with it.
Yeah.
There isn't a
Right.
cool thing that we can do better with. We are the solution, and
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
see ourselves as that solution.
Yeah. I see. I agree with that. Um, Last question for you. Out
Okay.
of the advisors that you've interviewed, do you know any who have invested in marketing, stayed consistent with it? I got to add that in, but are still struggling?
The short answer is no. But the long answer is most advisors are fairly prosperous. Most
Mm,
advisors,
mhm,
once you get past the third year, you're fairly prosperous.
mm,
So struggling, but I know that the advisors who've made a commitment. We're not talking about investing in marketing because you can invest for 3 months and then invest for another
right.
3 months. But the advisors who have invested themselves and their
Mm,
team and in not just marketing, but a person to oversee marketing,
mm,
consistent marketing process. Um, those people are doing extremely well at the expense of everybody else. You see these
yeah.
surveys, and there's
Yeah.
9 advisors who are growing at 20% a year, and 900 who are not growing at all. And that's
Mhm.
kind of a big delta to me.
Right. Yeah.
So if there's a message that I would want to give to everybody out there,
Yeah.
it is that I want you to take market share away from the sales companies, the wirehouses, the
Mm,
insurance agents who are out there.
mm,
Um, I don't want to cast too many aspersions. There are people out there, and I
yeah.
want the fiduciary advisors to get the attention of the marketplace and make inroads and invest in getting the attention of people who need your services. Please do that.
Yes.
So should I get on my
Bob, your
knees
check will be in the mail.
okay? So should I get on my knees or was the message delivered properly?
I think that was great.
Yeah.
I think, yes, I am in agreement that marketing is very important, and not enough advisors are convinced of its importance, and willing to invest. And I think there would be a pretty big change in the industry if they did invest into some more authentic, I want to say authentic marketing, whereas they're actually making stuff for their audience, not just stock content that exists and pushing it out.
But then you say that to advisors and they start whining.
Well, of course.
I'm going to have to hire new advisors because lots of people are going to come in the door. And when they come in the door, we're going to have to, we're going to have to onboard them, and onboard them is hard, and
it is hard.
And the answer is yes, you do. But the longer answer is, it's not just investing in marketing, it's investing in capacity. It's investing in processes and procedures. It's investing in software that makes the onboarding easier. And it's not for wimps. Marketing is not an easy, yes, I'm going to turn on this switch and I'm going to get clients and it's going to be easy. Marketing is a total firm commitment to growth. And I don't think many advisors, I think there are many advisors who are not really ready for that, who are not really prepared to go through the many things they need to do to market effectively.
Right. Or it sounds like also grow their practice, because, the infrastructure and the processes, I feel like that's all part of growing your business as well.
But if they have a fiduciary obligation to their marketplace and to the people in their marketplace, and if they have an obligation to the people on their staff to enhance their careers and grow their careers, then growing is an imperative. Growing is important because otherwise your staff and your community are going to be left out in the cold on services and achievements that otherwise could be achieved, could be acquired, gotten, achieved. I'm not sure what the word is.
Yeah.
You owe it to people to grow.
Yeah. Because what happens next when you're not there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing. A lot of people who look like me are the obstacles to change. You get older and you start fending off change instead of embracing it. I think what I tell older advisors is you need to let your younger advisors start to take the reins and start to create the firm they want to inherit.
Couldn't agree more. And also, I guess this would be a different conversation, but introducing them in the communications and marketing so that it's not just always you, because otherwise there's not going to be that trust from your client base in this person that you've invested in to take over.
Well, and they may prefer that staff advisor. I think Peter Montoya did a tremendous disservice to the profession with his brand, the brand called You, because he created something called the brand called You, and he did marketing seminars. And what he told advisors was, you were the brand. And that meant that all the people they worked with were not the brand, were not even part of the brand. They were just there to support and I don't think that's the way the world should work. That's not the way most major corporations work.
Right. It also makes retiring and or selling your business quite difficult.
Yes.
So if you want to retire and sell your business for more, hire me. No.
Boy, you're a good marketer. You're doing a great job of marketing here. You've probably done this.
And also make sure you sign up for Bob's inside information.
Yeah, I'm not the greatest marketer in the world.
That's all right. We can partner up.
This is the kind of drivel you'll get in my newsletter, is what you're hearing from me right now.
Yeah.
Is drivel a good marketing term?
Sure, why not? We'll make it a term.
Right. This makes you stand out, right?
Yeah.
How many people provide drivel?
Exactly.
Did we get any questions?
No questions, just some comments. Let's see. Here's one from, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but Vlad says 75% of all content being consumed is video, and 90% of that is short form video, and yet only a small percentage of advisors use it.
I think that's fair. But I think there's the bigger issue there. nobody wants to watch a half-hour video. Nobody wants to watch a long explanation of something.
Yeah.
But you can provide short videos just by my recommendation has always been, if your clients ask a question, that's a question you can answer on video.
Yes. That's a great prompt. We try to ask that every month of our clients. Hey, what are you talking to your clients about right now? What's going on in the office? Those things are important. And to
Mhm.
your point earlier about personalization, it's always the personal content that gets the most interaction. In email, social media, video. Of course, you don't want to just be posting personal. You want to have the professional content showing how you're an expert, but I think you need both of those pieces together to really have a full marketing plan.
So what about production values? I'm going to turn to you now,
Mhm.
because I hear people I hear marketing people say you can just use your phone, just
Oh,
point your
yeah.
phone at you and then just talk.
And we did just get a question. Yeah, you can definitely just use your phone. With clients that we work with, we have them send in a video that they've taken on their phone and then we edit it. I would say audio is really big. If you don't have good audio, people aren't going to watch. Next would be lighting, but definitely audio is the biggest concern. John Link says he loves the idea of the coaching topics. Any suggestions on initial video content?
I'm happy to provide initial suggestions. The the problem with our society is that we have made finances and really navigating the world way too complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we did that to ourselves. It was a crappy thing we did to ourselves. But now we're here, right?
Right.
And so what I would do is just start off by saying the world is a really complicated place, and the chances are the route from here to there, wherever your here is and wherever your desired there is extremely complicated. We and very few people can navigate it on their own because very few people have the awareness of their own limitations to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we provide an outside perspective. We can help you navigate the very complicated financial issues to help you afford where you're trying to get to and pay for it as you go.
Yeah.
And also constantly remind you of your goals.
Mm.
And there's a bigger picture to this. Most of us will never ever work on our own agenda. We'll work on everybody else's agenda. We won't work on our own.
Mm.
And so what an advisor does in the coaching role is to remind people of their own agenda, to say,
Yeah.
you've done this for them and this for them. And now it's time for you to work on your own stuff. And here it is. You never find the
Mm.
time for your own stuff unless somebody forces you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that would take more than 5 minutes to articulate.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
less.
Well, I also like, the tip you mentioned earlier of take a question you got in a meeting and make a video out of that.
Mhm.
Because it's probably someone else is going to have that same question.
Yeah, I think that's right. The question was specifically about coaching. That's why I addressed that. But
Mm.
it addresses a meta problem in our society.
Mm-hmm.
The meta problem in our society is for some reason we're trying to do what everybody else wants us to do rather than what we need to do for ourselves. And I'm not
Right.
sure how that happened, but it's and we made it complicated to get wherever we want to go.
Right. Yeah. Great. We've gone over a little bit, but I think it was well worth it. Thank you for all your time and sharing your wisdom and what you've learned over the last 40 years with us, Bob.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to everyone watching, remember at the beginning of this episode how I told you podcasts are the current trend? Well, if you've been thinking about starting one, you'll want to join us next Monday as we talk to Justin Peters of Simple Pod Studios. We'll be talking to him about why podcasts are a good investment, how to create high quality sounding podcasts, how to edit and produce, how to publish, and finally, how to promote. By the way, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter to stay updated on how to master those marketing trends. Just scan this QR code over to the left, right, to the side of me, and you can sign up there. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we won't see you next Monday because it's President's Day, but we'll see you the following.